Hi, I'm Rob Durham, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about selling merchandise after your show.
He tours clubs and colleges all over. He's just published his third book. Give a nice big round of applause for Rob Durham.
The first mistake comics make with selling merch is they get into it a little too early. You need to be a feature act at least consistently before you start selling merch. It is not okay if the MC sells merch at a show ever. Really, it's just kind of an unwritten rule. So you need to make sure you're a feature act. Another problem is the ideas that someone gets in their first year or two are not great. Just like those opening bits you write in your first 3-4 years where you look back on and you're regretful, a lot of times that happens with merchandise as well. So don't rush into it. It's always important to ask the comedy club if it's they're usually okay with you selling your merchandise, but ask them where. Don't just figure out where you're going to set up. Have them tell you where to set up, and they'll probably set up the table for you. Another nice courtesy is to ask the headliner as well. I think they're almost always okay with that, even if they sell merchandise too. Although I've noticed a lot less headliners are actually selling it. I'm not sure what's led to that, but it helps if you're the only comic on the show selling the merch. But always make sure with them, it's just a kind of a sign of respect. So check with them, check with the club, and you should be okay. Your merchandise should have something to do with your act. Don't just make up some product that has nothing to do with anything on there. So make sure that it's relevant to your act, that you're not just up there pawning some product that has nothing to do with anything you said in your whole act. Another guideline is keep it classy. I know t-shirts with cuss words on them are always big sellers, or actually I always joke the best-selling merch is some sort of racist t-shirt in a small town. They love those. But keep it classy. There are club managers that will actually limit what you can sell based on what is on the t-shirt itself. I think the most common type of merch, other than CD sales, which are kind of going out the window, is t-shirts. T-shirts are usually a great seller. I used to sell t-shirts. Make sure you have all the sizes you need, everything from small to double XL. Double XL sometimes costs a little more, but there's a lot of people, especially if you're touring in the Midwest, that need that double XL size. Another thing I did, they were a few bucks extra, but the baby doll t-shirts, those actually sold really well too for the ladies. So just kind of a cuter pink version is what I did. And those sold pretty well. They were a couple bucks more, like I said, but it was worth it in the long run. As far as how many sizes to order of what, you just got to get a feel for it. It never fails. If you have too many larges, everybody wants a small, and vice versa. It's just one of those things where you always have to have a large amount of inventory so that you don't miss any sales. If you are selling t-shirts, learn to fold them correctly, or you can even roll them up and put a rubber band around them. I know you can color code your rubber bands for the specific sizes. That's a nice way to keep them from getting wrinkled. Nobody wants to buy a wrinkled shirt, so you got to take care of them. Shirts are kind of a high maintenance product to sell, but again, they're usually the #1 seller, so they're pretty common. Be sure you find a vendor that is going to cut you a deal on that. A lot of other comics have connections to that. I used to use Bruce Goodman, a guy out of Dayton that was great. Look around, talk to other comics who sell shirts. Maybe you can even piggyback on their order to save a few bucks. But don't try and use some internet service that you don't know of. They're going to rip you off. So make sure you're turning a really good profit. As far as pricing, you got to adjust that according to the gig. If it's New Year's Eve in a city at an A room, you can charge more. You can charge $20 for a t-shirt. If it's a one-nighter in the middle of nowhere where the people are drinking, really crap beer, you may want to lower it to $15 or even $10 if you're desperate for a sale. If you're just trying to, get rid of certain sizes or something, lower that price, put a sale on, or maybe give them a deal if they order more than one. So something like that. You can adjust that price. It's not set in stone. Another thing to check on too is if the other comic is selling something, check and see what their price is. If they're selling their t-shirts for $20 and you're undercutting at $15, that's not very nice. That's something you don't want to do. So talk ahead of time and see what they normally sell theirs at, and then just figure it out. Leave it up to the headliner, I would say, as to what they want to charge for shirts, because you don't want to get in a price war with someone you're working with all week. Whether it's shirts or CDs or books, which I sell, make sure you have something that can transport them without hurting the product. You don't want to get your shirts wrinkled, your CDs broken. So make sure you have a nice duffel bag of some sort. And then maybe, boxes in the car if you have that much stock that you're going through. So You don't want to be left on the road with 5 or 6 nights of gigs left and run out of your supply. So always take as many as you possibly can. You got to make that transportation economical too. I've even seen comics that have ordered so much and then they have them shipped straight to the club if they're going to be there next week. So talk to a club manager if that's the case. If you're selling that well, go ahead and try that. As far as the money, make sure you have a Square app or a PayPal thing for your phone. That's been the greatest thing ever. And yeah, you're going to lose a small percentage, 2%, 2.5%, but that's really not a big deal. It's better than missing a sale. And then I always, I charge $15 for my book, so I always make sure I have a lot of $5 bills ahead of time. Now, a lot of times people will give me a 20, say keep the change, which is great, but make sure you have correct change. Sometimes people even want to pay with hundreds, so, have a little bit of a bankroll in your wallet before you set up for merch sales. Make sure you can sell your stuff on your website as well. Set up a PayPal account or whatever you need for that so that your friends and family can order your stuff. You got to ship it, but figure out the price range that you can charge so you can make as many sales as possible. I think something I need to work on is my spiel on stage. When with about 5 minutes left in your act, that's when you want to kind of wrap it up, give the audience a chance to breathe before you do your big closing and kind of show them what you're selling afterwards. They're used to it if they're regulars, but put in, figure out what works. What can you say to kind of get a laugh out of your sale of your merch? If it's a T-shirt with a punchline, that works as a nice callback or whatever. I struggle with selling my books because I want to get to the next joke, but have some patience when you're selling your stuff. The better your spiel, the more excited they are afterwards as well. Also, you can mention where the proceeds go. It's kind of a stock line, but I say all the proceeds go to me. So, if you are taking a percentage of your proceeds and giving them to a charity, make sure you do that. I know so many comics that I know are lying about it. Like, yeah, we give a portion of the proceeds. Are you? So make sure you're actually doing that if you say you are. If someone does buy your merch, you are obligated to talk to their drunk ass for a while afterwards. Once you get through all your sales, they're going to linger around, or maybe it's the only person you sold to that night. You are obligated to have at least a 5 or 10 minute conversation. They're probably going to want to tell you a joke and ramble on because they're excited to meet you. They're going to want you to sign the merchandise. That always makes me feel cool to put my signature out there, even though I'm not a celebrity at all. But sometimes these small towns think you're a big deal. So, let that build your self-esteem. It's great. You got their money, so you owe them a little bit of time as well. So make sure you're not interrupting potential other sales. Just kind of, people get the hint, even if they're drunk. But yeah, it's one of the more fun parts about the show. And it makes no sense. There are times where I've had great sets and then have 0 sales. There's times where the sets could have been a lot better and everybody wants to buy. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Sometimes people just feel like they want a souvenir or they want to tip you. So even if they're going to use the shirt or listen to the CD or read the book, it doesn't matter. They just want a souvenir and they want to contribute to you a little bit extra. So that's always appreciated. I've had other comics too work out combo deals with me. I'm not a big fan of it because we have to do math. So, check with them ahead of time before if they're going to do some combo deal with that, because sometimes people don't want to buy the other guy's stuff or other girl's stuff too. And then there are some weeks where merch is great, and then some weeks you just get your ass kicked. The headliner or the feature has a better, just whatever product they have is better. Maybe it has nothing to do with their act and they have no dignity in their merch, but it's fair game. So again, speaking of merch, I sell this book as well as my other ones, Don't Wear Shorts on Stage. And it is, it's about comedy. My other books that I sell, I might as well while I'm on here. This one's called Around the Block. It's a young adult book that I wrote semi-loosely based on my high school experience, but that's fun. And then this new one that came out is called Don't Do Shots with Strangers, the all-inclusive guide to all-inclusive vacations, featuring pictures of me and my wife and all of our vacation stuff, all the hacks we've had. So there's my spiel. All the money goes to me, yada, yada. So, all right, thanks for checking in. Make sure you subscribe, and hopefully we'll be back in the club soon. See you next time.